Hello, my name is Hamid with We Buy Any Card, and today I have for you a market update. While I do this, I'm going to flick through a collection that arrived over the weekend. Now, this is a lot that we picked up for about £20,000, and a little story behind it. It belonged to a musician who would travel the world with his band, and instead of partaking in the rock and roll lifestyle, he would visit magic shops and set up trades and deals around the world. And eventually he managed to accumulate full sets of everything from Arabian Nights to around 2017, probably around the Ixalan era. And that's when he decided to sell his collection. And he sold all the complete sets, but left behind all his playing cards, all his decks, and everything he wanted to use for deck building. And this is what we purchased. Now, it's pretty unbelievable to think that such a large and expensive lot of cards is just the leftovers. But we were very happy to find this, and then what we also found is that he had a large collection of playmats, roughly about 50 limited edition exclusive signed playmats. He was an avid playmat collector, and that's not something you see very often. Um, I'm just going to begin to flick through these cards now and start the discussion about the reserved list over the last month or so. Now, beginning with, I guess, revised, we've seen something of a drop off in revised prices starting around this start of April. Cards that spiked, let's take an example of Vesuvian Doppelganger, up to the range of about 50 to 70 pounds for a near mint card have come down and started dropping a little bit. And other comparable cards, I think, will continue to do the same. I think the reason for this is that when these cards go up in price, the supply comes to the market because a lot of people are sitting on these cards. They've been in drawers, they've been in deck boxes and stored away. And when something like that is suddenly worth 50 or 60 pounds, it's gonna start. You're gonna start seeing more copies being listed for sale on the market. That's completely understandable and predictable. And this also is reflected in the fact that we see a lot of more collections being offered to us, old school collections than we do normally. And the question for anyone looking to get into the market at that point, if you have this piece of information that says, okay, a lot of supply is coming to the market, is can the market, can the number of buyers keep up with the number of cards that are being offered up for sale? And I think for some cards the answer is yes, and for some cards the answer is no. For example, we haven't seen many changes in the price of revised dual lands. Those have continued to sell very strongly and continue to be extremely popular. And I would say generally it's around the top end. The nicer the condition, the easier they tend to be to sell, and that isn't actually always the case. It can be the case that the lower condition and cheaper ones are easier to sell, and generally what you see is people looking to get into legacy, looking to get into a format, but being constrained by their budget are the ones who want to get into legacy and buy into the sort of LP or played cards, and the collectors and the ones looking to hold on to value and making complete sets of things, they're the ones who are looking to pick up the nicer copies. And I can report to you that those nicer copies are very, are extremely easy to sell in the current climate. That sort of concludes the part about reserved list and particularly revised. Next, I want to talk about a different change, and that's the change in demand for modern cards. And we have a good example here. This is Cavern of Souls, Othervile. I think there might be an appetite returning potentially for playing of Modern or Pioneer or some of these more competitive formats. The UK came out of lockdown about a week ago, and even though LGSs are not able to open for in-store play, we still have, I think, a sort of at least the start of a hope or the glimmer of some sort of future where we're able to attend tournaments again. And as a tournament player, I can't tell you how much this excites me because I'm very much looking to get back and playing deck building and playing tournaments. And I really hope that we're able to do that this summer. Now, that said, even though the demand for modern cards is pretty strong at the moment. We have also seen a drop off in the total number of orders we've been receiving. I think this may be a UK specific thing because we just came out of lockdown about a week ago, and we also had a huge number of we had a really good weather. That's what I wanted to say. So we had, I think somewhere about 16, 17 degrees. And I think it's just generally people are sick and tired of being at home and are looking to get outside. And the priority maybe isn't so much on Magic the Gathering at that point. It's probably more towards doing something outside. And so we've had a big drop off in the number of orders we're receiving. That said, generally what we have been selling have been sort of higher end collectible cards or modern cards. And that's sort of the point I wanted to make of the video, is that the market seems sort of to have honed in and be more focused on those cards. There's always the basic demand for, commander staples and commander decks, but I think the sort of proportions have changed a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And the real question here, I guess, is this going to be a summer of Magic? Are people going to be looking forward to attending tournaments? And there's probably not going to be any Grand Prix, but more maybe local tournaments. Is that something we can really expect to happen? And are these prices reflective of that sort of anticipation among players? And I think, sadly, I don't think so. I think probably it's a lot more likely that we're going to have sort of intermittent or some amount of restrictions over the summer, and we'd have to wait probably until the following winter. Also, I think just generally people are more excited possibly to spend more time outside because we've been in lockdown for about 3 months. Now, this is all rather UK specific here. This is gonna be different based on which country you're in, how serious the coronavirus pandemic is in your particular country, and how well it's being handled. But generally, I think in the UK, I don't see necessarily a strong tournament circuit returning this summer. Although going into the autumn and the winter, I certainly hope so. I certainly am definitely, if it happens, I'll be there. I can tell you that much. Now that concludes the discussion I wanted to have here today. I just wanted to show you some of these nicer cards in the collection. The gentleman who sold us these, the musician, he actually had a full legacy or vintage dredge deck. So he had 4 copies of Bazaar of Baghdad. It might actually be, a friend of mine commented that it might actually be the cheapest vintage deck because it requires no Mox and no Black Lotus, but still you don't see 4 Bazaar of Baghdad's very often. So that was a really nice thing for us to pick up. Foil 7th edition Howling Mine. Some people are huge fans of 7th edition foils, and they're definitely something that saw a bit of an increase over the last couple of weeks. A couple of months. But anyway, this concludes the discussion for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you for the next one.